Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope all of you are doing good out there. As usual, I was just spending a little time as I was arranging some stuff for the stream. And yes, I am actually going to show you guys some ammo tonight. Can't show guns because it's a live stream on YouTube, but that's why we have our locals community where I do that every Saturday. So I hope you guys are all good tonight. Who's in the house? I'm just going to say hi to a couple people real quick because often I regret the fact that I don't get to say hi to enough of you guys when I'm looking at the chat on the replay. So what's happening, Gort? Mateo, as always, thanks for your help with the channel. We got James Kawasaki, Mike McClune, Scott Plagueman, Pillbox Bunker, Old Coasty, Alabama Hot Sauce, Edward Kent, Barney Brady. Geez, look at all of you guys. Way too many of you for me to scroll through and read all of them, but I know you guys are out there, and I appreciate all of you. So if you look at the title of the stream, it might look like a little bit different topic than I usually talk about. And it kind of is, but it kind of isn't, because all of this stuff goes back to the essence of what this country is. And at its founding, when Ben Franklin was asked, do we have a republic or a monarchy? Well, he said, a republic, if you can keep it. Now, we also like to talk about the Second Amendment a lot, and we should talk about the Second Amendment. See, I don't know about you guys, but I love the founding documents. I truly do. You know, besides the Bible, for me, probably the greatest works that have ever been written, the Declaration of Independence. I'm a huge fan, and it talks about fighting off a tyrannical government, doesn't it? It also talks about how to form a new government, and it also talks about the sufferance of the colonists under tyranny, under despotism, under the monarchy. And it's literally just as relevant. I actually was just talking to somebody the other day. Just humor me here and think about this, because I think it's true. The Declaration of Independence is almost probably more relevant today, literally right now, than the year it was written. And when you start thinking about despots and tyranny, you'll see where I'm coming from. And I'm sure a lot of you guys think about it the same way. This leads us to the Constitution, which is actually a very simple document. And it gives actually very little authority to the federal government. And it gives a teeny bit more authority than that to states, but actually not a whole lot. Now we move into as amended with the Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments, and I love all of them, but the Second Amendment still probably my favorite. And here's why. Because all political power comes from the barrel of a gun. And the First Continental Congress knew that. The Founding Fathers before we were the United States knew that. And by the way, the ATF's trying to regulate right now and say you can't build your own gun anymore or make it very hard to do so. The Founding Fathers were building guns before the United States was a country. And it's part of the core principles and part of the essence of what it is to be an American, is to be able to build your own gun. And I can guarantee you, if they were abiding by ATF regulations, back in around 1775, 1776 era, we wouldn't be the United States right now. We'd be either part of the monarchy, or we actually might be part of Germany. We might be part of many, many different countries, because if you look at the way history works, if one piece was different, if America wasn't America, we clearly wouldn't be Americans right now. And we would probably have a lot less liberty than we do now. The Second Amendment, it's very interesting because it literally doesn't just say what, it says why. And I know I've talked about this before, but we need to keep reminding ourselves of this. It's such a beautiful little phrase because it doesn't grant you the right to keep and bear arms. This is a pre-existing right that pre-existed any government, and it actually supersedes any government. It doesn't say that Congress has the right to grant you the right to keep and bear arms. That's actually not in the Second Amendment at all. And it's not there for a reason. Because first of all, the government has no rights. The government has consent of the governed, and all rights are inherent in the people. That's why it simply states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. That's the why. It's literally telling you why right there. It's so simple and it's so obvious. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And that's very, very important, which literally means every single gun control law is 100% constitutional by literal definition. See, you don't have to be a scholar. And in fact, it's all of these scholars that went to the Ivy Leagues, all of these people that have family connections, money connections, political connections. Let's see here, money and political connections. I think I just repeated myself, didn't I? No, those people are the ones that are actually perverting these very plain words. And you don't need to go to college, and you don't need to be particularly smart actually at all to understand what the word shall not be infringed means. Very simple words. Infringement literally means if there were to be an iota, a scintilla, use whatever words you want to describe the smallest amount possible. That's not allowed. Now, I don't like case law, and I had my friend Catherine Henry on here a couple weeks ago, and no, case law, that should not be part of these United States. But even if you do want to use quote unquote case law, look at the very early Supreme Court case, which was around the year 1800, Marbury v. Madison. All laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. And this is part of our history. This is part of our history of the highest court in the land. Okay, all of that's true, and I'm heading somewhere with all of this. Let's talk about real quick the well-regulated militia part, and then look at the title of this video. All of the United States military surplus, guns and ammo, where are they? Why aren't we getting those anymore? Why aren't those, quote, available to we the people? And it's a very, very important topic to think about. Going back to what the Second Amendment truly says. The right of the people, meaning that right already pre-exists to this government, and the government does not grant you your rights. And I want you all to remember that. And I'm saying that to encourage you all. I mean, there's so much doom and gloom everywhere right now. We need to be encouraged, don't we? Because if you don't have hope, you have nothing at all. Just remember, this government was instituted amongst men. That the only reason the government would exist at all is to protect your unalienable, God-given rights. These are laws of nature and of nature's God. That's what the Declaration of Independence says. And it's probably more relevant today than it's ever been. And why do we want this well-regulated militia? Well, obviously, it's necessary to the security of a free state. You don't actually have to go to the Ivy Leagues to understand that either, do you? And here's the problem right now. The problem isn't necessarily that the government doesn't understand what rights actually are. I mean, that's a huge problem. But I think the more philosophical problem is this. Right now, we're not letting them know what rights truly are. And we're not really reminding them enough that they actually only govern at our consent. And we only consensually delegate small amounts of authority to them to do certain things. But all rights are inherent in the people. And the government actually has no rights at all. Think about that. People say, well, the government, Congress has the right to make gun control laws. I've heard that lately. And maybe people are just misspeaking, but maybe they're not. And maybe people have been socially programmed throughout the schools, throughout the ages, throughout the last decades, maybe 100 years, maybe more than that. Some would say for 150, if not 200 years. Actually, Thomas Jefferson himself, when he wrote the Tree of Liberty letter, the ink wasn't even dry on the Constitution yet. They had drafted the words, but hadn't printed it yet. That's the time frame back in 1788 when he wrote that Tree of Liberty letter. Thomas Jefferson was actually so frustrated that before the ink could even dry, and that was a literal thing back then. Remember, it was the quill, the pen, a bird's feather. They dip it in the inkwell, write it. And that saying, the ink hadn't dried yet, was actually a real thing. The ink hadn't even dried yet. And Thomas Jefferson couldn't believe how much the government was already usurping the authority that it was given, the very, very small amount that the people had consented to. Well, the Declaration talks about after a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably, right? I'll read it a little bit later. The same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism. I don't know. Are we a despotism now? Well, I think you could look around you, and a lot of it would be, you would say, obviously, yeah. We probably have more despots in power and more tyranny of government now in so many ways than the founding fathers had when they were colonists, when they were actually technically loyal British subjects, colonists of the American colonies. We probably actually have more of that now than we did then. And how's that tie into milsurps? Well, quite simply put, where the heck are all the milsurps? And why don't we, the people, have them? Well, let's take a little bit of a history lesson. First of all, the government only exists, like philosophically, at the consent of the governed. I know that kind of sounds like fiction right now, but we need to actually hold on to that. We need to do a better job reminding these public servants, these politicians, that you serve us, You work for us. You're only here at our consent. And there's actually nothing wrong with that. Notice I didn't say anything about threatening anybody's well-being. No, threaten their jobs and say, you no longer have our consent. You work for us. You're my public servant. Now you need to serve the American people. Okay. In around 1903, first of all, I think you guys already know this. Let me back up. What do we mean by MilSurp, military surplus? Well, that's quite simply when we go to war or when we're training in times of peace, our United States military, which, look, a lot of people don't approve of the active role of the military. Some of you are going to agree with more of the world's policeman thing. Some of you are going to be against that. And that's not actually what this debate's about, but to different extents, some people weigh less, some people weigh more. And you guys can talk about that in the chat all you want. I encourage you. It's just not what I'm going to dwell on tonight. Most people believe along a certain spectrum, reasonable minds will debate this. I want to say this one more time. We should probably have somewhat of a military to provide a common defense. That way, if Japan were to bomb Pearl Harbor or things like that that have happened in the past, we would have a military that could provide for the common defense and protect. And that in and of itself, if you just look at it if you look at it in that narrow of a window, is actually provided for within the Constitution. Well, part of that is them amassing arms. The larger the country grows, like I said, many people say it's grown way too large. I get all that. The more arms you need. Well, they use these rifles, these small arms, pistols, many other things throughout their useful service life. And then when it's no longer considered useful for our troops, it's surplus. Now, this isn't any different than if you have a city truck that might spread salt on your roads or sand or repair potholes. That's a government piece of equipment. It serves its purpose to do whatever its intended use was for the people within that certain jurisdiction. Then maybe it gets too rusty or the repairs aren't worth it. The juice is just no longer worth the squeeze. They'll sell it surplus at auction. And you can buy an old county dump truck. And a lot of you guys might even do that, either for your own purposes or to make a little extra money. Well, military surplus firearms have been in the past, and in my opinion, still should be no different than that. But here's what's interesting. And I'm going to show you guys throughout this video some ammo. I'm going to show you some literal, genuine 1944 M1911 45 ball ammo. This is real deal World War II stuff made at Evansville in Indiana, and it's still sealed. And I'm going to have some exciting videos on actually a full sealed crate with a frozen in time. It's like a time capsule from World War II, 45 ammo. So if you guys are into that stuff, definitely look forward to future stuff here on YouTube as well as locals. But so they make all this stuff, right? Okay. And they make guns. And then at a certain point, they say, well, let's make it surplus now. Okay. 1903, there was a program instituted by Congress under President Teddy Roosevelt. And he said it was called the CMP, the Civilian Marksman Program. And that still exists today in a very ghostly, diminutive form of what it once was, but it's still in there today. And I'm going to get into where I have a bone to pick with all of what's going on right now and where it actually does tie into the well-regulated militia. And it definitely ties into the Second Amendment. It also ties into property rights. Because just remember, the government is actually you. And the dollars that are spent to arm our military with all of the stuff. Now, there's way more stuff than this. But for the purposes of this stream, I'm just going to focus on small arms and ammunition, generally handheld things. Now, this would also apply to tanks, in my opinion, fighter jets, all of that. Yes, according to the Second Amendment and the founding principles of this country, you can own a warship. In fact, they actually used many privately held warships to fight off the Brits in the Revolutionary War. So, yes, you should be able to own a warship. You should be able to own a fighter jet. You should be able to own anything the government does, and all gun control is unconstitutional. I truly believe that. And before anyone asks me, what about a nuke? Well, that's in a third category. I believe a nuclear weapon is such a powerful device. And not only just the initial blast, but the radiation and the deformities that it does to people. And the fact that you can literally look in Japan where it burned in images of people when they dropped those bombs in World War II. And it created an energy that was so much more powerful than the force of the sun, that actually where that person's body was. Now remember, were the Japanese enemy combatants? Absolutely. Did they need to be defeated so they couldn't perpetuate their axis of evil? Certainly. Did they fight honorably the way they bombed all of our boys when they were coming back from church in Pearl Harbor? No, that was not honorable. However, I draw the line with a nuke. When something's so powerful that a man, any man, because all men have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and we're just not perfect people. You don't even have to be a Christian. I'm sure there's many people that aren't Christians that would have their own version of that, right? I think it's too powerful of a weapon, and there's just too much aftermath that it's just people trying to be too omnipresent, more than what people should. So, no, I don't think civilians should own nukes. Literally, when the nukes went off in Japan, it burned images of people into the concrete. And there's photos of it. If you don't believe me, look at it. It might even make you shed a tear to think that was a real person. And although their country was an enemy combatant and they had messed up leaders, I mean, certainly we have messed up leaders in the United States right now, obviously. Man, that was a real person, and they love their kids and family just as much as you do. And there's an image, a silhouette of their body literally burned in to the concrete permanently. So, no, I don't think any government in the world should have nukes. If I could wave a magic wand, I'd like them all to disappear, and I just don't think nuclear weapons should exist. So that's my answer, and you guys should always have your own answer. But whenever the anti-gun says, hold on a minute, you said that the Second Amendment means shall not be infringed, absolutely. And I'm like, yes. Now, does that include a tank? Well, of course it includes a tank. Okay. Does it include a fighter jet? Yep, actually. What about a battleship? Actually, and most necessarily, because if the civilians didn't have battleships that were put into service against the Brits, we might have lost that war on that accord too. But then they'll move the goalposts and they'll say, what about a nuke? And that's my answer. What I just explained to you guys. No, I'm not a fan of nukes whatsoever. If you want peace, you should prepare for war. Okay. That's not me being weak. I just don't like nukes. I think they're a very, very evil thing. And I think humans are just too flawed of entities to really even have those. So I would prefer no government or civilian to ever have a nuke. So there you guys go. But we're going to talk about small arms. And it's kind of interesting. 1903, the civilian marksmanship program was put into place, right? And the purpose of that, it was enacted by Congress. It was something that Theodore Roosevelt was in much support of. He was basically spurring this on. This was something he wanted to accomplish during his tenure as president. And it was to take it where these military surplus firearms, starting with the 1903, the U.S. 1903, Springfield Rifle, we call it. Smith Corona typewriters went on to make these. By the time we got to World War II, very, very important and prolific rifle, which was actually so close to the Mauser action, we had to pay the Mauser brothers and their Mauser company a certain royalty, as was arbitrated by, I guess you call it the equivalency of like a world court at the time. But the American Mauser, the 1903, it was a very, very important rifle for U.S. service. He remembered, Teddy Roosevelt himself remembered, San Juan Hill. He remembered going up with the trapdoor rifles, and we ended up winning, but he was kind of like, wow, those Mausers that the enemy had, those repeaters, those certainly were a modern marvel. And they decided to themselves in 1903 that much of the American people actually didn't have the proper marksmanship skills to actually become part of a military or even a well-regulated militia. Back like we said earlier, that's the beautiful thing about the Second Amendment. The what is shall not be infringed. The why we need this well-regulated militia is it's necessary to the security of a free state. And we also have to add to that against enemies, both foreign and domestic, because there's enemies within, there's foreign enemies, and they're both dangerous. Some people could say the internal enemy could even be more dangerous. However, a lot of people were more prone to shooting back then with lever action guns. And I know a lot of you guys like lever actions, and they're awesome. I love shooting a lever gun. Trust me. I have a couple old 30-30s not too far behind me. Susan Wiki. They're far enough away from me where they're not part of this stream, but somewhere very, very far away, I have a couple old 30-30 Winchesters right here. By the way, let's go Brandon, guys. Literally. Let's go Brandon. He's wanting to make it illegal to make your own firearm in many instances very soon. So they said, you know what? It's time to bring the American people up to speed a little bit with these modern bolt action 1903 rifles, which don't forget this for 1 second. It doesn't say the right to keep and bear a musket shall not be infringed. No, your AR-15, your AK, fill in the blanks, your Glock, your Ruger, whatever it is that you like, that you use to protect your life, liberty, currently, That is the modern musket. That's the same darn thing. Actually, it's less than that because we should be able to have machine guns right now because that's what the current military uses. Let's rewind back to 1903. That was the modern arm of the day, the modern small arm, the 1903. So they started the civilian marksman program. And what that was going to be is a way to take these military rifles at that period of time, no different than what an M4 would be today, or an M249 or an M240 Bravo. Same equivalency. This was the modern state-of-the-art troop-held rifle at the time. And they started the CMP, and that was to promote primarily for youth. It was to basically transition these kids into being able to shoot what was considered a modern rifle so that they could train with it, so that they could be ready with it, so we could have a very robust, well-regulated militia within the United States. That if we needed to later draft them to become part of the United States Armed Services, that would be an advantage for the armed services, but it was also considered a huge advantage for just the American people, the farmer, the shoemaker, the businessman, whatever you were at the time, that you would actually have marksmanship, civilian marksmanship, which is something that would be, by its sheer nature, civilian would be the opposite of a military man. So they primarily focused on the youth. It involved gun safety, gun education. This was kind of a way to almost try to put a mass curriculum across the whole United States of America at that time. And I think they should still be teaching gun safety and marksmanship in public schools right now. I mean, our tax dollars pay for these schools. I think it's their duty as not only protecting the Second Amendment as far as the right to keep and bear, but also to be able to protect the security of a free state. These are all very, very core fundamental things to this country. And that's why I want to talk about where the heck's all the current military surplus, because we've gone like super, super far away from that. I miss you too, DLD After Dark. Shout out to you and your channel, man. I just saw that out of the corner of my eye. I'm going to get to a couple of the super chats in a minute. But so they would literally take 1903 rifles and put them in the hands of civilians. Actually, a pretty good idea. Now, look, at anything the government does isn't perfect, and I could nitpick flaws with it, but I like the general philosophy. Arming our civilians with guns that the civilians already paid for anyways. See, military surplus isn't like, oh, this company bought something. Say a company bought a typewriter and they used it and bought the new model. Yeah, they can sell that to you because that's something they bought in free commerce, and I believe in capitalism. But when the government buys these weapons, as they did in 1903 and they still do today, they're buying it with your money. That's your money. They're actually your rifles. You're just consenting to let G.I. Joe or G.I. Jane, maybe Jane Locke's in here right now. You're consenting for G.I. fill in the blanks to use the rifle that you helped pay for to go bravely fight for their country. And that's a very American thing to do. And to go fight for your country and for freedom and posterity, that's actually a very heroic thing to do. But just keep in mind, those rifles, whether it was the 1903 or the current M4 or M249, pick your favorite one you like right now, that's your rifle that you've consented to let the government use, put into service, train here at home, go over and fight wars abroad, whatever it is that we're doing. I said it earlier, trust me. There's different spectrum of people. Some of us approve more or less of what our military should be doing, but the core fundamental principles of it, that's basically how it works. So American surplus, we can find 1903s on the surplus market that came through the civilian marksman program. You can also find M1 Garands. You can call it the Garand if you want. I'm not like a pronunciation type person, but it's the Garand. His name was John Garand, actually a Canadian, a little fun known fact. We also have M1 carbines. In the past, you know, the American Enfield, the 1917 rifle, certain 22 target models. But here's the thing, the CMP's dried up on a lot of those. And Barack Hussein Obama, do you guys remember him? Let's go, Brandon. Back when the former vice president was the former vice president, imagine that. There was a time when the former vice president was actually the vice president, and he put in a bunch of sanctions, and he signed some stuff with a stroke of a pen that's actually tied up a lot of those rifles, a lot of Garands and M1 carbines. And some 1911s were allowed through in 2018, but that's even convoluted, and there's many more that aren't allowed through than were allowed through, and you have to play a lottery, and it's really tough to even get those through the CMP. Why is it that we can't right now? And this is what sparked this. I was talking to my friend Mateo on the phone a couple hours ago, and I'm going to show you guys some surplus ammo. And I said, well, hold on a minute. This is cool. And this is cool. I was able to get some USGI made in 1943, repacked in 1944, US ball, caliber 45, M1911. That's the designation for it at that time. I think that's still the designation. From what I understand, we still issue M1911 ball to some troops today, believe it or not, at least very recently, as in like the sandbox era. There were still people fighting with 45s, USGIs. Anyways, I said, hold on a minute. I said, this is cool. I'm going to show you some old World War II ammo from Greece in a few minutes, from Turkey. I said, where's the M9s? Have any of you sat there and asked yourself that? And you might have started off with a little bit of an inquiry. I'm kind of telling this story backwards, guys, because I think it's all important for context. And some of you have said you like to listen to me rant a couple times. And plus, there's lots of thoughtful discussion when you truly go back and look at the core fundamentals of this. Where's the Beretta M9s? Why aren't they literally just dropping them off in our mailboxes? Because that's what somebody might say. And actually, fundamentally, I don't even know if there'd be anything wrong with that at all. That'd be fine with me. Why aren't they available through different surplus outlets? Why aren't they available through the CMP? The M9, otherwise known by the name of the Beretta 92. See, I have an old surplus Beretta 92S. Very similar to the US M9. It's just a little older version. It has the, not on the bottom of the heel, but the very side on the bottom, mag release. Other than that, it's basically the same as a US M9. It's known as the Beretta 92, the Beretta 92 FS. There's certain like really cool expensive versions of it that some of you are enjoying today called the M9A4, but that's in name only. That's not truly a US M9. So let's see here. This is a 9mm. Okay. Semi-automatic pistol. Now, first of all gun control is unconstitutional, 100%. All laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. I mean that 100%. There's no but. I'm just saying, okay, there's that. So we should be able to have any type of arm that the U.S. military has. And since we paid for all of it, we should be able to get all of the surplus stuff right now. But even within the constraints that the people apparently have consented the government putting on them, I mean, remember, if we didn't consent, they wouldn't be allowed to pass one single gun control law. But we the people, not you, not necessarily you personally that's watching, but we the people collectively apparently have consented to over 24,000 plus federal gun control laws because ain't nobody putting a stop to it. So in the constraints that we've allowed ourselves to be in, it doesn't violate any laws. It's a semi-automatic pistol. Do you know how many US M9s? It's called the M9 Beretta, right? You can call it the 92, whatever, but these would be properly called an M9. Do you know how many of those have existed, still do exist, and where the heck are they? Have any of you guys seen even once? Now, there might be a guy somewhere that has one that he showed on YouTube because he's got special connections to the government, and hey, cool, good for him or her, whatever. But where are they? Have you guys seen any US M9s for sale? Have you actually seen any United States surplus firearms past like the 1940s that are for sale? First of all, under the premise that obviously a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, if the government wanted you to be free and it wanted you to do your duty, because it's not only your right, but it's your duty to institute a government that you see would suit you for your liberty. That's what the Declaration says. Wouldn't they want you to be well armed? See, back in 1903 with the CMP, they actually did want that. And they actually passed a congressional law that was supported and pushed through by the then President Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt. There was two Roosevelts. For those of you that went to public schools, I went to public schools. It's just an inside joke. Wouldn't they want you to have those? For our country to remain free, for you to remain free? And while the Springfield 1903 is a very venerable bolt action, and it could still do a lot of work today, I'm not making light of it. And so could an M1 Garand, and so could an M1 Carbine. These are actually guns that are like 100-plus-year-old technology in some cases, 80-year-old technology in other cases. And due to executive actions, by the way, get a hold of your senators. Ask them, say, what's up with all those M1 Garens that are in Greece right now? What about all the M1 Carbines that are in the Philippines? You work for us. We bought those rifles. Our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents bought those rifles. Get them over here right now through the CMP. Cheap as heck. First of all, you should be doing that. And you should also be at least asking yourselves, and probably ask a lot more than yourself. You should be asking your government right now, where's the M9 pistol? Do I have any chats that I missed, Linda? Well, maybe they're still in here. I always like to thank you guys who leave generous super chats, but I want to give you guys a second while I'm reading these just to think about that. Where is the US M9 pistol, and why the heck don't you have one? For either free outright or a very, very nominal cost. I'll tell you guys why in a second. It shouldn't be free. It should be a very nominal cost, but that has to do with more of communism versus capitalism argument. But where are they? Where do you think they're at? And why don't you have one? Raw Feeding 101 with the super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate you. He says, happy Friday, brother. We just got done doing a recording with some Legos, and she really appreciates it. And you should see that on Locals probably in the next week. So we were just talking about you last night. And it was cute. She's like, the guy that used to be called Dog Dad, because that's what she knows you as, but she couldn't remember. I'm like, honey, he changed his name like a year ago to Raw Feeding 101, but she appreciates you, man. Thank you. Clover Tack, what's happening, man? How you doing, dude? Susan, oh, jeez. Susan Wiki. By the way, welcome, Susan, and your team of people who enjoy these streams every week. I bet you one of Susan's workers that are watching this. Shout out to the people that work at YouTube that are big fans of this channel. I bet you one of you's gears are turning. Someone working at YouTube right now, right, Clover? They're like, yeah, where's my US M9? There's actually lots of gun people that work for YouTube. I just want to let you guys know that. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them do. What's happening, Clover? How you doing, man? He said Susan said to drop by and tell you hello. So, hello. How's it going, Clover? Nice to see you, dude. Oh, man, there's so much going on at these events. I was running around in circles, and I think you left a day early, but I wish I could have hung out with you more. But me and Clover got to hang out next to our cars down there in South Carolina just a few weeks ago, and that was nice. You guys can hang out with me next year there, by the way. These aren't exclusive events. Any of you guys can go. It's called The Gathering. It was really fun, and I got to meet Ghost Tactical was hanging out with Clover, and a bunch of cool people. Marco Polo with the super chat and a channel member. Thanks, dude. I appreciate you, man. He said, thank you for my Taurus book and trading card. Yeah, like she literally sent a bunch more of these out. A lot of you guys have received these, and even more of you will be. And the 2A Edu trading card. Why? Well, we need to just make this stuff as fun as possible. There's tons of doom and gloom stuff, but we need to like read fun books and dream about guns maybe we can't afford, but there's good articles, right? Trading cards. A lot of you used to collect baseball cards, and a lot of you kind of gave up on sports because it just got too woke for you, or just different things happen with a lot of it. And look, back in 1903, they started the CMP to kind of like bring the youth into modern firearms at the time. Don't forget this. When they were handing out 1903 U.S. rifles to teenagers, young adults, kids, whatever you want to call them, teaching them up through this government program, because the government still understood why a well-regulated militia was necessary to the security of a free state back then. That's the equivalency of if they handed 16-year-olds right now as part of an education program, safety was taught. And gun safety is very, very important. That's not being a FUD or a conformist. No, like clearly you have the right to keep and bear arms, but you don't have the right to willy-nilly let rounds fly off wherever and take somebody else's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness away from them. It's your duty to be well-regulated, which means well-disciplined, well-trained. Safety. We can be the most liberty-minded proponent of, yes, you should be able to own a warship and a tank person there is, but safety is very, very important, and that's what part of that was. It was literally the equivalency of if they were handing kids M4s right now. The 1903 in 1903 was literally the direct equivalency of a U.S. M4 rifle right this second. And it might take a second for that to sink in because, well, this is actually what they talk about also in the Declaration of Independence. People will suffer evils while evils are sufferable. And they've been just slowly but surely chipping away at that since the National Firearms Act really started kicking it off in 1933-34 era, that we've kind of It kind of sounds like a novel concept, doesn't it? Just be honest with me. Just think about it. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to be honest with me, but it'd be nice if you were, you know. That almost sounded crazy for a second when I said, hold on a minute. That'd be like them literally just shipping to your house, no background check, a US M4 rifle. Yeah, unfortunately, truth is treason in the empire of lies, too. And they've just been slowly but surely chipping it away that it's become normal now that you wouldn't send a US M4 rifle directly to a person's house so they could start training to get that well-regulated militia as powerful and as strong as it could be. But back in 1903, that was actually not a novel concept. It's something they actually enacted a law to be sure that all of the youth would learn gun safety, marksmanship, proficiency, and quite frankly, become really good shooters while sending them the most modern, revolutionary military rifle of its day. By the way, directly to their doorstep. Think about that. See you later, Joe Pichetti. He's got a bounce. Nice seeing you, man. Have a good weekend. James Kawasaki with a super chat and a channel member. He says, much love, everybody. Got up and gun up. Long live the 2A. Yes, sir. Thank you for that encouragement, man. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you supporting the channel the way you do. That's what literally, like, look, you guys just being here and hanging out with me, that's support. And in most ways, that's worth way more than money. But the money does help because I'm literally buying stuff for the channel, and I couldn't be able to afford it without you guys. So thank you to all of you who not only leave these super chats, but the channel members, Patreon supporters, local supporters. Some of you guys just send me stuff. Well, I bought more stuff for the channel recently. Okay, back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. Are any of you curious? And are any of you curious enough or actually like just ticked off enough to want to know and start demanding answers? Where's the United States military surplus stuff at? And why don't you have it? And why don't any of you guys have a US M9? I'm just using that as one of the many examples. It's kind of interesting because we'll see like the Star BM 9mm come in, okay, of Spain. It's a nice little military surplus pistol, and those are cool. And I bought several for next to nothing when they came in the country a few years ago. And in limited degrees, they're still available. What about the Czech model Cz70 pistol and CZ, VZ? VZ just means visor, which means model. So the CZ VZ70, the CZ50. Well, those are really cool little, 32 caliber. If you're an American, you'd say it's 32 caliber. You'd call it 7.65. If you were it was called Czechoslovakia then, right? Those come in the country, but why haven't we seen a U.S. mil-surp gun come in this country that's available for civilians in, I don't know, 70 years, 80 years? Think about it. The M1 Garand, the M1 Carbine, those are like 80-year-old rifles, actually even older than that in some cases. What about all the surplus ammunition that you're not able to purchase right now? And here's why I say purchase instead of free. If it was surplus ammo, I could see them giving it for free because we already paid for it. But it wouldn't be free for you to buy it because it would still take commercial companies to get involved. You'd still have to have whatever type of freight carrier move the ammunition or the guns. You still have to have the wholesaler who would warehouse it once it left the government's hands to go into the private sector, right? Because we don't just have like a government gun shop for the most part. We have CMP, but it doesn't seem like they're able to get any of these newer guns. So whatever. If CMP could do it, maybe that's the answer. And you just could buy it directly from this. It's actually like a 501 or 503C government entity. CMP is like technically its own company, but by authority of Congress. But I digress. But if we want it sold in commercial means, and I would almost argue that might be the best bet. We pay a small amount for these things, but it shouldn't be free because then you'd have to like commandeer private assets and force like a freight carrier to transport it for free. And then you'd have to force a gun shop to tie up room in their showcase for free. And you'd have to force somebody who spent their hard-earned money on a warehouse to warehouse it for free. And then the government wastes so much money. If you get stuff directly through the government, that's usually pretty inefficient. So if I could have it my way, first of all, we should be able to get these guns no matter what. But I would think maybe for a fair price, a cheap price, or whatever you want to call it, for a low price, because that way it would actually have an extra benefit of helping to boost the economy. More people that could work in the United States, more businesses that could prosper. Look, all businesses aren't like on the level of Microsoft and Facebook and Google. There's many small and medium-sized businesses that are truly the bread and butter of this country. So, let the local gun shop make a little bit of money off of it because they're facilitating the sale of and they're housing it. You know what I'm saying? Let me back up. First of all, they should be able to ship it right to your house. We shouldn't even need FFLs because all gun control is completely unconstitutional. But within the parameters that we've accepted to live within, what an awesome thing that would be. Look at the M4 rifle. M16 rifles. Do you know how many M16s were surplused? Given away to allies. Actually, unfortunately, it's not just that. Given away to enemies. See, they'll make this argument and say, hold on, an American can't have a machine gun because like one in several thousand people might have a screw loose or might just be inherently a bad seed, a bad person, because evil does exist, clearly, both in government and there's evil individuals. So this 1 in 1,000 people or 1 in 10,000 people might do something bad. So we need to err and make 9,999 people suffer so it can maybe prevent one person, even though we know that's a fallacy because areas that have the most gun control actually have the highest amounts of violent crime because obviously the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, clearly. And when seconds matter, police are usually only minutes away. And because of that reason, police usually come to just write a report of something that already happened. That's why we all need to be armed and take that very seriously because we need to not only protect our families, ourselves and our loved ones and our neighborhoods, but we also need to protect ourselves from governments, whether they're foreign governments that are trying to invade our soil or whether it's a domestic tyrannical government. That's literally the essence of why this country has the Second Amendment, which doesn't grant you your right. It prohibits the government from infringing upon your natural right. But they'll say, with all that said, I think we're all on the same page with that philosophy, more or less. They'll say, no, the U.S., the plebes, right? They might call us the proletariat. These are all just ways of saying just peons, nobodies that matter. That's how they look at us. It's pretty clear at this point. We don't matter because I guess we haven't told them that we matter, quite frankly. I guess. I don't know. You guys could think about that for a minute. But you can't ship anyone in the United States a machine gun because once a machine gun, always a machine gun. Heck, they've actually perverted it and convoluted things so much that even if the barrel was attached to a machine gun and you completely removed the barrel from said receiver and you were literally just holding a barrel, they've now defined, not by an act of Congress, but by literally arbitrary, they're called executive actions. We're getting ready to have a bunch of doozies here soon from the AFT, right? The former vice president, the AFT, Shubidanominate national pressure. You can't have a machine gun, AFT. They're getting ready to declare a bunch of other stuff, but it was declared just a few years back. Do you guys know this? That just a barrel that was once made it up to a machine gun, the barrel in and of itself is considered a machine gun. And once it's a machine gun, it's always a machine gun. And you can't decommission a machine gun and make it where it's semi-auto. You actually have to completely destroy the receiver. And then you could take a collection of most of the other parts, put them together, make it a semi-auto. But the barrel's a no-go. The barrel has to be holes drilled through it, a molten rod shoved down it, or cut up in pieces, or just thrown away outright. That's why if you bought a modern Kalashnikov kit, since that was a machine gun at one time, it's not enough just to destroy the receiver beyond repair. If you notice, they cut the barrels up into pieces. And they can't even cut them cleanly with a bandsaw because maybe somebody can figure out how to line it back up. I wouldn't recommend doing this, by the way, guys. I'm just saying, maybe someone could weld the barrel back together. Don't do that. That's probably not safe, but yeah, no, they actually cut them and they have to throw away sections. Now, this isn't the receiver or the gun I'm talking about. This is literally the barrel. Once a barrel has been affixed to a machine gun for even a scintilla of time, 1/1000th of a second, once a machine gun, always a machine gun. Even the barrel in and of itself, once you remove it later, that's a machine gun. Now go read the definition of machine gun and see if that matches. But said this earlier, and I might say it a couple more times tonight. Truth is treason in the empire of lies. So they've literally got stuff so twisted right now. You might think that you're looking up, but you're actually looking down And you do that so many times, you're probably dizzy, and it becomes so dizzying, most people are too scared to even really care about this stuff, let alone actually try to do anything about it. So imagine this, all of those M16s and M4s that you paid for, by the way, or your father did, or your grandfather did, whatever. You and yours paid for these. Could you imagine what a booming industry that would be, and how much it would just ease the stress and burden of how much it costs to buy a gun if you took all of those M16s and M4s that have gotten surplus collectively by the millions, literally. And instead of preventing the American people from having what's rightfully theirs to begin with, because this is your natural right to own any firearm that you see fit. That's literally what the Declaration says, that they see fit to provide their new security, right? And to protect their freedoms. No, they just give it to the Taliban. Do you guys remember Afghanistan? So there might be 1 in 10,000 Americans that would do something wrong, even though they're so stupid they don't look at the stats, because the stats don't lie. Literally, John Lott wrote a book that said more guns, less crime, and literally proved it. This is provable metrics. It doesn't matter what your philosophy is. It's a proven fact. More guns in the hands of civilians equals less crime. And the places where they've artificially messed with that with severe gun control laws, they have the most crime. So maybe somehow, hypothetically, 1 in a very small number of Americans would do something heinous and horrendous with this gun. So let's just give it to the Taliban, who we know 100% sure are going to use that on Americans again and literally run around and chant death to America. That's what they chant over there in the Middle East. Many of them, most of them do. So let's just give it to someone that we know 100% our enemy. Don't deactivate it. Don't do anything. Just hand it over to them. Wow. And we all talk about this stuff in a bubble, but if you really start thinking about it, we haven't had any U.S. firearms surplus to us that aren't of like literally World War II design. We have them from other foreign countries here and there, but not from the United States. Not available on the market. Not given to you for free through the CMP or a very low cost through the CMP. There is actually money that's required to run the CMP. That's why I understand if there was a little bit of a low cost. I don't want the government just to make guns and give them to us for free, because that's actually communism. Just like I don't want the government to just keep printing food stamps and giving everybody free food, because that falls under communism. And if you give everybody free housing and a free basic education and a free basic income, well, then very quickly, and we're already headed down that road, let's face it, we by definition would be a communist country. So that's why I don't want the government to simply just give us firearms for free, because that wouldn't be free. You guys get what I'm saying, right? But they should literally take the surplus stuff, and that should be put back to the American people. And if CMP has to charge a little money for it, or if there's a little money to be made along the way with the private gun shops selling them and putting a lot of good Americans back to work and giving them good jobs and gun shops or warehouses that warehouse guns, I would be all for that. Okay? I would be all for that, because I think there's a lot of you who wouldn't mind working part-time at a gun shop or at a warehouse, or it's just a good, honest living to make, right? Working with your hands and working with guns, whatever part of the industry you're part of, right? So they'll literally give like a non-decommissioned, just fully functional US M4 rifle, and they'll just give that to the Taliban like it's nothing. Just think about this for a second. They chant death to America. They're promising that they're trying to reunite again. I mean, for these people, this is a holy war. They believe their eternity is based on that they have to kill the infidel, all these things. We hand them all of our arms and say, here, just take them all. Abandon the whole base. Now, why is it? And look, all gun control is unconstitutional. Every little bit of it. See the Second Amendment. See Marbury v. Madison. But let's move back into the reality, the constraints that the people have allowed themselves to be governed over. And let's just put it still within the bubble, because whether we want to admit it or not, the National Firearms Act did pass. It does exist, as furthered by the 1968 Gun Control Act, as furthered by the 1986 Firearms Owners Protection Act, with the Poison Pill Hughes Amendment that closed the registry in May of 1986, saying unless you were previously grandfathered in under this registry, under the National Firearms Act, no more machine guns could be sold to the proletariat, we'll call ourselves right now. These are all just degrading terms for what different, past governments called their peons, their insignificant people. Okay. So what happened? Well, clearly it made it where only rich people can own machine guns because they're actually still not banned right now. You just have to sit there and compete with the highest price to have more money than someone else, buy one of those very limited amount of pre-May of 1986 machine guns. Okay, but let's say we're willing to. I'm not conceding to that. I just want to move on with the conversation. That is what it is. Those laws are on the books. Even with those laws being on the books, what would be wrong with taking all the U.S. M4s? Okay, it's called the third pinhole. It's called the lowered shelf. I don't want to talk about it too much on here because Susan Wiki, hi Susan, she gets interested in some of these details. So we're just going to call it the shelf and the hole, right, Susan? Susan's like, geez, you said the hole? Yeah. You understood that, didn't you, girl? Okay. You could literally take all these M4s and bring them into the United States right now. By the way, where are they? Is it only the Taliban that gets your rifles that you paid for? Just keep in mind, everyone in America right now, and your father, your father's father, and your father's 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 father, you're the ones that bought those rifles, and you own them. You own the M9 pistols, like literally by definition, because you're the one that actually provides for the budget for the United States military. You collectively with a lot of other people, even under the current gun control laws we have right now. I'm talking actual laws, not some executive action this or in the dark corners of whatever or AFT rules. No, actual, even by the letter of the law. Why couldn't they ship those M4s here? Put a lot of good American people back to work. We're back to that again. I think that people should have good jobs and people should be able to pursue their passion, because if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's a beautiful thing. How many good jobs could we have and help the American people have that well-regulated militia, which is necessary to the security of a free state? Ship them over here. You can take wall aluminum. I know there's some fabricators in the house. Tell me right now. And I don't mean like literally you could, but maybe some of you could. I couldn't. I don't know how to weld worth of crap. But there are people out there that know how to TIG weld aluminum. Couldn't they just weld over that third pinhole? Couldn't they just weld in or otherwise affix in a little piece to get rid of the lowered shelf, it's called? There you go. It would no longer be readily convertible into a machine gun. And there's a lot of people that would enjoy those rifles. People that like to collect stuff due to military provenance. You could study the markings on the side of them. And you could tell the story to your kids. And these are important stories to tell. And any of you guys that have these stories, you need to remember them. Because I'm afraid pretty soon these young kids aren't even going to know what World War II was. And they're not even going to know what Vietnam was. You need to talk about Cambodia. You need to talk about Laos. You need to talk about the Viet Cong. And those rifles, those are war trophies for people that fought. And a lot of people died. And a lot of people gave the ultimate sacrifice and they lost their lives. And they're heroes because of that, because they were trying to fight for liberty and they were trying to fight against the evil empire. They were trying to fight against communism. And evil will always prevail when good men do nothing. We need to remember that, both foreign and domestically. We need to remember that right now in the United States more than ever. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to sit there and tell your grandchildren someday, you could say, great-grandfather so-and-so, you never met him, but he was a brave man, and he held a rifle just like this, and it had these markings on there, and that's history. If you don't learn from history and remember history, you're going to be doomed to repeat it. Not only are these rifles tools, because you could use that same M4 or M16 if we're talking Vietnam era, you could still use that today. Even if, again, I don't agree with any of this, even if it was converted to semi-auto under the current laws of the land, you could still use it today to protect your family's life and liberty. You can still use it to help protect your country. You could also talk about the history behind that. Just like you can hold up an M1 Garand today if you have enough money, because 3/4 of those are still held overseas. And due to executive fiat and action, they're not allowed to come over here anymore. And that's why even through the CMP and online and all these other places, look at how much it costs to buy an M1 Garand rifle. If it's under $2,000, you're probably doing pretty good today. Just think about that for a minute. There's millions of them still sitting over in warehouses from other countries. It was called Lend-Lease. It was called this. It was called that. And they rightfully belong back to you, and they won't let them come over here. Not only can you not enjoy the sportsmanship and the marksmanship and use these to defend your home with, but you also can't tell the stories behind them. And these are very, very important. I think it's almost getting to a point right now in our society, and people are very visual people. It's nice to have something to hold in front of somebody, right? And you could literally sit there with your teenage son or nephew or daughter and say, shoot this rifle. This is basically the exact rifle that was used in the Vietnam conflict. And as you're shooting it, I want you to remember what your great uncle, your grandfather, whoever went through over there. And the person will be like, wow, that's a pretty somber thing. And say, yeah, and remember what it's like. And you better keep on practicing your proficiency, because if we don't get our crap straight real quick, we'll be fighting the equivalency of Vietnam right here in the United States soil. See, that's the problem. Kids are actually pretty smart. They're actually a lot smarter than us in many ways, because they're starting it younger and younger. And this is not a coincidence. All this ties in together. As they're trying to bring in all this wokeness and this New World Order and all these things. Look, you used to be a conspiracy theorist if you said New World Order. Now the former vice president says it right in front of your face. And if you're not listening to it or noticing it, well, then you're just under a rock or you're stupid or something, because they're literally telling us right now. The social order, the Great Reset, the New World Order. And they're trying to restrict guns like crazy. They're also trying to restrict the history that's behind all of this. And I don't just mean history from like a collector standpoint. And by the way, that's fine too. You have the right to own property in this country. And you have the right to own old relics that become worth money. And that's also part of your natural rights as an American citizen. But you also, it's nice to have this stuff because it all tells a story. If only that rifle could talk. What did it see? What did it do? What did the person holding it do? What were they fighting for? And that's a very important way to spark conversations. And there's probably people watching right now that served in Vietnam. You can't even get guns that were used in Vietnam in the United States still. Like, where the heck are they? Where's all those M16s? You might be able to get a half-baked parts kit version of it, but no, the actual guns. They could easily convert those to semi-auto. And that's completely nuts to say that if a barrel was ever affixed to a receiver with an extra hole in it, that the barrel is perpetually a machine gun. This is nuts. And this is stuff Congress could take care of, like, very, very quickly, like literally very quickly. What if we have a Republican that runs for president and says, if you elect me, your 8-year assault on the Second Amendment will be over, and I'm the most pro-gun president you've ever had? And they could actually sit there and just unsign stuff with a stroke of a pen. I just want you guys to start thinking about this stuff. Why are we not getting any more military surplus guns or ammo into the country? They shouldn't have to convert the machine guns. All gun control is unconstitutional. But even within the parameters of that, people could have good jobs TIG welding those third holes, putting a little insert in the shelf, it's called, so it can't accept certain parts. I know for a fact there's people, and again, I had my friend Shooting Gallery New England on for a Q&A video. I don't know if you're watching, buddy, but shout out to him. He's an awesome dude. People like them would just love to sit there with a room filled of like M240s, and they come up with a procedure and a plan and they convert them over to semi-auto. Don't think I'm advocating that we shouldn't own machine guns. I think you guys know me better than that. But even within the parameters of the current law, there's no reason. There's no reason we should give the Taliban unaltered, unfettered machine guns, tanks, aircraft, missiles, anything you can think of. But they won't even send the semi-automatic US M9 over. They won't even let. Just think about that. Them convert a machine gun to semi-auto to fall within the draconian parameters that we're all living within. That'd be a lot of good jobs for people. How many of you guys watching this served your country? And what's your thoughts on this right now? Would you like to be able to actually, it might not be the exact same one, but what if you served in Vietnam? Now, if there's anybody right now that served in Korea, you're very old, and God bless you. There might be somebody from World War II watching. That's very unlikely at this point, but God bless you too. But I think for the most part, time flies, doesn't it, guys? Literally, you wake up and you're like 29, then you wake up and you're 39, and then you're 40, and you guys know what I'm talking about. And all you young bucks out there and young chickie poos that are watching, if you're in your mid-20s, you're going to go to bed tonight and you're going to wake up and you're going to be 40. Trust me on that. Trust me. But how many of you guys served in Vietnam, or maybe, in Cambodia, or maybe you served in peacetime, or maybe you served in Operation Desert Storm or Enduring Iraqi Freedom? I'm going to miss some conflicts, guys. I'm not, no disrespect. I'm just on the fly. I don't use a script. How many of you guys either served in times of peace and war and would like to physically hold, even in the constraints we have now, an M16, A1, A2, A3, A4, a US M4, a Mark 18 Mod 0, an M1911? Very few of those were released through the CMP, but not many. Not many at all. Where's the US ammo at? Think about it. Again, I don't want the government to produce brand new ammo and then just mail it to me, because that's actually kind of like communism, really. Now, why not? Since they're already mailing people everything else for, quote, free. It's not free. Communism and Marxism only works until you run out of spending someone else's money, and then it collapses. And by the way, if it wasn't for the United States toppling communism throughout the world for the last 100 years, we'd be in trouble. And if we fall to it, nobody's going to come save us. So no, I don't want them to literally just produce new ammo, send it to me for free. That's kind of a social welfare mentality. But what about the surplus stuff that was already paid for by me and you? In addition to all the guns, what about the ammo? Well, it's come to my attention. And look, there's nothing this simple, but it basically falls into two categories. Either they give it away to other countries. Hold on a minute. I've said this before, and I truly, truly mean it. Many, many fine people live in every country of the world, no matter how evil their leaders are. Because our leaders are, no matter how evil their leader is, let's go, Brandon. In some countries, they have an evil president. In other countries, they have an evil premier. Okay. In some, they have all sorts of different dictatorial titles. President, prime minister, premier, sheikh, whatever. In our case, we have a former vice president, the former vice president of the United States. So trust me, I get it. With that said, many fine folks, people that love their family just as much as you do, live in every country of the world. But here's the problem with that. No problem with them being great people. But here's the problem with sending them our ammo. They're not Americans. And for once, we need to actually look out for our own. Does that mean being greedy? No, but I'll tell you what, there's tons of good Americans out there. And any decent person that lives in a foreign country that watches, because I know some of you do, you guys have to know where I'm coming from here. If you live in Great Britain right now, I don't want you sending your ammo to me until you're taking care of your own. So this works full circle. There's a lot of really good Americans right now. A lot that I've become really lucky to be friends with. And I get to hang out with you guys every Friday night here and Saturday night on Locals. And a lot of you guys are doing without right now. And a lot of you guys, no matter how hard you work, you can't keep up with the rising prices of ammunition. And you and yours, whether it was you, your father, your grandfather, you guys have paid for trillions of dollars of ammunition in your life and your ancestors' lives. That ammo belongs to you. Where the heck is it? Well, from what I understand, they give it to other countries. Back to that again. Many fine people, but it doesn't matter. I'm an American, okay? And I want to take care of America first. It's just like being in a relationship. You're not going to be a decent husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend if you can't take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself first. Then you can help others a little bit when they need it. It's called charity, and you should help others when they need it, but only after you can take care of yourself. Because if you can't take care of yourself, you get drugged down to the lowest common denominator, and everybody suffers. And everybody ends up starving to death, and everybody ends up in mass graves and killing fields in any communist country throughout history. It's just a race to the bottom. So with that said, not in a selfish way, we need to take care of ourselves. So no, we shouldn't be giving ammo to other countries until we've made sure every American has as much ammo as they need to have a well-regulated militia, right? Or if they don't do that, they destroy the ammo. Just think about that. You bought something and you consented for a brave, we'll just say GI, right? Because that covers all of the different branches of the armed services. You had that for the training of a brave GI to then go over and fight for their country or train here in case they were called upon to fight. And maybe a lot of us consented to that. More or less degrees. We could argue over how much military we should or shouldn't have. But even the Constitution does talk about having a military and a well-regulated militia for a common defense, right? Okay. So you consented that you're like, all right, you can take a little bit out. Look, I think that taxation is theft, so I'm not conceding to that either. I'm just saying under the parameters we live in. It's one thing if they take a little bit of your hard-earned money and put it into a USGI's gun, training in the United States, fighting abroad, maybe fighting here in the US against a foreign invader. But then they're like, no, we don't need it anymore, actually. It's only 5 years old. We know ammo can last 100 years if it's stored properly. It could last as little as 5 minutes if you did something bad to it, like dropped it in a bath of acid or something, you know. But if stored properly, it can last 100 years. But say after it's 5 years old, I'm kind of making that number up. There's different protocols. I tried to look it up. It's actually way more complicated than you'd think, but it might only be 5 years old. And the U.S. military, certain division or whatever, says we're done with it. It's too old. They either give it to other countries or they destroy it. But you paid for that ammo. So why isn't it right now that all this surplus ammo from not only the military, but also all these three-letter alphabet soup agencies? In fact, the civilian ammo is hard to get, therefore expensive. Like, you can get ammo now, but it still costs twice what it did pre-Flugaloo. We call it the Flugaloo, right? 2020, March of 2020, and after, ammo's still double price of what it was. Well, it doesn't help that our military and our three-letter agencies buy this exorbitant amount of it, way more than they could ever shoot, and they know it. And then they give it away to other countries or destroy it. Have you guys asked your congressman lately? Whether they're via the House of Representatives, your U.S. rep, or your U.S. senator, have you asked them why that is? And then have you gone on to demand and say, I want that ammo. That belongs to me. There's no military surplus, guns or ammo, coming into this country from the United States anymore. In some cases, it left the country and it would have to be brought back because we are the world's policemen, whether you agree with that or not. Maybe you're in the middle. I don't care. I do have thoughts on it. It's just not the point of this stream tonight. But some of it would have to be brought back. Some of it's already here right now. Some of you guys might literally live right next to a military base, and you're like, well, I could just drive by on my way to work and pick up some on my way home. Why wouldn't you be able to do that? Just think about it. No, they actually take more of your taxpayer dollar to destroy it. Now, look, that was kind of me just speaking a little tongue-in-cheek. I get it. Maybe it wouldn't be the best idea just to walk up to the military base and say, yo, dude, like, hand me a box of whatever, of M855. No, but we could actually boost a lot of jobs with that, too. Maybe it's an 18-wheeler comes and goes from the base every time they're clearing out the surplus and then distributes it throughout the local gun shop. And your local gun shop owner and all their employees could help, you know, raise their families and earn a living wage doing that. Because there's nothing wrong with people making money in this country, but there is a problem with they confiscate your money, they steal it from you, they take it from you, whether you want to or not, they buy stuff with it. In this case, we're talking about guns and ammo. Then they either give it away to other countries or they destroy it. Now, how would you feel if somebody walked up to you and just reached in your pocket and pulled $1 out? Well, you're already like pissed no matter what because they just took money out of your pocket. Okay. But then they're just like, hold on a minute. Here, you just take it. And they just hand it to them. I know there's someone out there laughing. You're like, dude, you just literally like that quick. If you really think about it philosophically, I just described how the whole United States government works. That is literally how it works. Hey, you, do you want this? And hand it to somebody. Or they could even do, this almost seems worse. They pull it out of your pocket. By the way, it's not that innocent. Put a gun to your head to force you to let them take it out of your pocket because that's what happens. All these three-letter agencies are law enforcement divisions, and they come with guns if you don't comply. So there you go. Back to what Mao said. All political power comes from the barrel of a gun. It's either going to come from the barrel of your gun, your government's gun, or another government's gun. They just pull it out of your pocket while you're at gunpoint and just light it on fire right in front of you. You're like, but what the heck? And they're like, don't worry. I bought this lighter that I just burned your dollar bill with. I stole $1 from your brother to buy the lighter to now burn your money, and that's actually what they're doing. I think we should figure out a way. And here's my problem. I think about a lot of this stuff, and so do you guys, and I hope I offer a good avenue to think and a good place to host a chat where you guys can have a lot of good discussion. But I don't know. I'm not George Washington. I don't physically know how to do it. Now, I have some more thoughts, and if some of us were sitting in the woods, we could probably talk further than I'm choosing to right now. But even with that said, I'm not George Washington. I don't know physically how to do it, but there has to be a way that we can literally, I don't want to say get the government's attention. It's more like tell them, look, this is the deal. Where's all this ammo going? Where are all these surplus guns going? I'm not talking about tearing down the country or any of that, although that's what the founding fathers were talking about with this great document, the Declaration. I think we should really, really try to start thinking about this. Where are the U.S. M9s? Where's all this darn ammo? Those belong to us. And if you guys have any ideas, let me know. Seriously, is this something we need to be talking to the GOA about more? Does it even do anything anymore to call or write your congressman? I don't know. I think you should write your congressman no matter what, because that's your right and it's your duty. I mean, it literally says in the First Amendment that you have the right to petition your government for redress of grievances. There's some people out there that are like, dude, it's just not even worth my time getting a hold of my congressman and my senator. I understand. You do you. It doesn't say that you have to. Like, you could go to jail if you don't. That's what this country was founded on. But it does say that it's your right and that it's your duty. I mean, people always say the First Amendment is just for freedom of speech and religion. Well, no, it's also actually of the press and to petition your government, right, for redress of grievance. So there's people in certain communities online here that'll say that you're somehow, I don't know what wording they'll use, but they'll say somehow like you're not a true American if you write your government. I argue with that, and actually so do the founding fathers, because it literally says in the First Amendment, petition your government. So maybe we need to start a literal petition. By the way, when you're writing your congressman with your grievances saying this is BS, you guys need to figure out a way to get all this surplus ammo and guns into the hands of the American people, that's covered under that. That's part of what to petition your government, redress of grievance. That's, I don't know. And I'm not talking down to you guys. I just don't understand it. There's a thing that kind of sort of goes around online from time to time where people will have this, in my opinion, misconceived notion that if you were to call your congressman or write your congressman, you're somehow not patriotic. And I'm like, well, if you want to convince me of that, you need to convince me that the founding fathers weren't patriotic, because they actually covered writing your congressman right there in the First Amendment. So there you go. I'm going to show you guys some old ammo in a minute. And this is where, I'm trying to actually encourage all you guys. Do I have any more chats to catch up on, Linda? I want to catch up on those because, again, I really appreciate you guys' generosity, and it's nice to thank people while they're still in here. So get me some of those chats ready, Linda. But in a minute here, and let me back up. Everything I've been talking about has been encouragement tonight, and I am pissed off about all this, but it's still encouragement because they only literally operate at the consent of the government, and I wanted to broach this topic because I don't hear about it much. Where are those U.S. M9 pistols? Where's all the M193 ammo and M855 ammo and all of this that you should be able to buy at very low cost, exercising capitalism and helping to boost your economy and, help support gun shops and people that work there? I think that'd be just such a win-win. If there was a way to get it for free, maybe, but nothing's free in this world. So I'd probably rather just private businesses take care of that and compete with each other and just charge a minimum markup on it just to facilitate the distribution. If you put it all in the hands of the government, it would just be some kind of like perverted Ponzi type scheme, because that's actually what they do with everything. So I don't know. I'm going to read all this chat afterwards. Let me know ways that you guys might be thinking about how you could do it or who we need to get a hold of, and maybe you guys can help steer me in the direction of, continuing this on further, because it's BS. And I know a lot of you guys, maybe you didn't think about it much, have to be ticked off about it, because it's not cool at all, and it's not American at all that they would be just destroying ammo and giving it away and stuff, but not to us. Nuts. What's happening, Jane Locke? Nice to see you there. Let's see here. The Beef Coon with the super chat. Thank you. Says, do you think rifle caliber pistols are in danger? Yeah, obviously. If you just want a short answer, it's all in danger. They've literally said, we want your guns. Like, literally, the former vice president said it. He said, well, if it's an assault weapon. But then you look at what their definition is of an assault weapon, and it's actually like more than 10 rounds. And if it has more than one, or in some cases, more than zero evil features, which includes the shoulder thing that goes up, it includes a grip that protrudes at a certain angle, and it also, in many cases, is a magazine that's outside of the pistol grip, and that's probably would fall into the definition of what you're talking about. So, yeah, it's all in danger. If you're talking specifically those, there's the braces rule that's coming soon, where they want to make 99.9% of any braced pistols into National Firearms Act, NFA item, tax stamp, permission slipped across state lines, more difficult to transfer. And according to the lion of the Second Amendment himself, Justice Scalia, there's some good about him, but there's some bad. He put the poison pill into the Heller decision and said, by the way, the Second Amendment doesn't protect unusual weapons, which are pursuant to the National Firearms Act, and it certainly doesn't protect machine guns, and particularly dangerous firearms. Yeah, I mean, obviously Justice Breyer and Sotomayor and all those type agree with that, but it was actually Scalia that wrote that in the majority, and it's true. And yes, Trump banned bump stocks, guys. Some of you guys are new to the channel. Some of you aren't. I'm not new to my own channel, and I probably talked about Trump banning bump stocks and how hypocritical it was, and called him out on his, if you elect me, your 8-year attack on the Second Amendment's over. I probably called it out more than anybody. And I lost subscribers and got thumbs downs and all the little things that, whatever, people are going to do what they want to do regardless, that I could from calling Trump out on his BS. I posted a YouTube community post 2 days ago, and the only purpose of it was I said the most popular of all time, and I showed the former vice president's trading card. The Topps Baseball Card Company made trading cards in 2016. They made them again in 2020 with presidential candidates and former vice presidents and all these different things. They made one for the former vice president. It was like $4 free shipping, $3.99 free shipping. And then President Trump's card was like $600 with 4 shipping. And I literally put it up there just to get people to think. And I said, the most popular, and I would add Susan Wiki, according to Time Magazine, a NewsGuard certified source, the most popular and the most fortified of all time. And literally, I put the post up. Go read it yourselves. I literally said, Topps put out trading cards. Here's the price for this one. Here's the price for this one. The most popular and the most fortified of all time. That's all I said. You guys can take it for whatever it's worth. If you find irony in it, if you say, well, that has to prove this one was more popular than that. That's all I said. That's all I said. And I'm going to show a little deference and a little benefit of the doubt to some of the people, because I don't know that they lie. They're just ignorant to the truth, and they just say things that aren't true. Somehow some people tried to turn that into that I was a Trump sycophant, that I was worshiping him as an idol. And to those people, I don't hold any harm. I don't have any ill will to you, because it's not your fault that you have no clue about me. And it's not your fault that you're new here, but I'm not new here. And I've literally condemned the former vice president and the former president, both for these tyrannical acts. So I just wanted to bring that up. And that had nothing to do with your super chat at all. It's just kind of funny sometimes, and I have no choice but to laugh at it when people come in here and they're like, but did you know that President Trump banned bump stocks? Like, what do you mean, did I know? I was on here lighting myself on fire every Friday night as passionately as anybody out there. Literally, as passionately as any YouTuber you've ever even heard of, preaching about the bump stock ban, how we can't let it through, and if we do, it's going to be the most slippery slope ever. And I said, a lot of you guys might like President Trump. And the crowd cheered, and they said, we all love him. I said, but it doesn't matter, because he won't be president forever. And there could be a Democrat that comes in office. And when that Democrat does, they're going to take what Trump did, which is completely tyrannical and completely unconstitutional. And and they're going to run wild with it, and then anything's going to go. And this is literally the definition of a slippery slope. Okay. And a lot of people got angry with me for that, but I don't really care because I'm going to talk about what, in my opinion, is right. And if I have to call out a Republican, I'm going to call them out, and I'm actually going to put the heat on them even higher. And I did call out President Trump. And this channel would probably be a lot bigger if I didn't, to be honest with you guys. But I'm not in it for that. So that's not really anything that matters to me. I'm glad you guys are here, but that's not what matters. And then I rip on the former vice president and people that have no clue what they're talking about. And I don't want to impugn their character because I'm sure they're not liars. They just spew rhetoric that's not true. See, here's the thing, and I'll just leave it at this. Some people out there can't chew gum and walk at the same time, but I actually can. See, I can call out the current former vice president for his tyranny, and it's our right and it's our duty to do so. And I can also call out the former president for his tyranny with bump stocks. And I can actually mean both because they're both true. And I can also say, let's go, Brandon, because gas is $4 or $5 a gallon right now. And it used to be $2 a gallon, and it all can actually be true. So there you guys go. And I promise that had nothing to do with that last super chat. I just thought about it because a lot of people have been trying to educate me lately. 2A EDU. Did you know that President Trump? I'm like, dude, you're freaking 3 years, 4 years behind on this. Go back. I could provide you probably hundreds of hours of content about this. MDO with the super chat. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the support. I don't see a message there. If you left one, or maybe you're just trying to support the channel. Thank you. I appreciate it. And here's the problem. By me going on that little rant, I just ticked off every like ride or die Trump supporter. And if there was still a Brandon supporter, I just lost them too. But it's fine because I'm sick and tired of two sides of the same coin. And you know what? I can't even make this stuff up. Sometimes stuff just happens for a reason. Literally, did you guys see me reach before? The lovely Linda. I'm not sure what she's called tonight, but she's equally lovely no matter what her name is. What's happening, Michigan Watch? Did you just leave because I called out Trump? I don't know. Linda, 2A EDU's #1 fan. A few people said I'm out of here when I just called out Trump on the bump stocks. It's nothing new, guys. I get it. They said I'm out of here. He just called out Trump with bump stocks. Yeah. No, here's what's funny. This is crazy. I was literally talking about two sides of the same coin. And this is actually a beautiful coin that I really like. It's called the Libertad, right? And Band Talk's already gritted. He's like, dude, are you serious? Like, you guys saw me, right? I have a bunch of witnesses, like 200 witnesses. I reached, and I was just going to talk about two sides of the same coin. There's this side. Okay. Trump banned bump stocks, but started like a really bad precedence. Then there's this other side that could be the former vice president now trying to ban virtually everything. And I hate to actually use this coin as an injustice, but it kind of does the coin injustice because this coin is an inanimate object, but it actually does have meaning to me because a good friend of mine gave this to me, and Bantalk gave me this coin that I was just getting ready to hold up and talk about. But yeah, I'm just as sick of it as all of you guys, like literally sick of it, having to two sides of the same coin. Let's see here. This one will just ban bump stocks right now, so that 3 years later, this other one can come and ban the rest. What happens to the one that just signs and repeals all these previous bans? Where's that person at? Let me know if you can find them, Band Talk. And I still keep this right next to my computer, just for encouragement and when I need to do a two sides of the same coin analogy. So this is the coin Band Talk gave me. I was reaching for it, and as I was grabbing it, his name popped up, and that was kind of a little bit ironic. Thanks for the generous super chat, man. I appreciate it. And check out the Band Talk channel, by the way. Good channel, good dude. He says gun control only helps criminals feel enabled. Yeah. My city is trying to ban CCW holders from carrying in parks and city property. Libs are insane thinking. Being defenseless helps you. Dude, that is an insane thought. Literally. That's literally an insane thought. And certain words like libs and liberals taking on new meanings over the years. A classically liberal person should actually believe that you have the right to choose for yourself. You have the right to your own body. Isn't that what people used to say? And there might be some people that still identify as liberal watching right now, but there's a new breed out there now where no, only the government gets to decide what you put in your body, what you protect your body with. And by definition, whether you're conservative or liberal, of course you should support life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because that's just literally being called an American. We could disagree on so many things, and as long as we would literally agree with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and we could agree with very, very simple things, right? Like a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And if you're literally a quote liberal and can still believe that and still practice what you preach, and a conservative and believe that and practice what you preach, you're still an American. I'm sorry, but some of these people nowadays that don't believe in any fundamentals of what this country is, and all they want to do is tear it down, and they believe that the Declaration of Independence is blasphemy, and they believe the Constitution's blasphemy, and they believe the Bill of Rights is blasphemy, and they believe that we should have the united federal government with a bunch of little plebes, proletariat, whatever you want to call yourself. Those people aren't Americans, and they should get the heck out. Literally, I don't care who they voted for. There's certain things that should supersede any party lines, that should supersede all of this. And that you have rights that are endowed by your Creator. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and Congress shall pass no law that would inhibit upon your free speech or of your religion, or to petition your government of redress of grievance, and that you couldn't be forced to quarter a soldier in your home, and that you had a right to a fair trial and a speedy trial, and that you couldn't be forced to testify against yourself, and that you shouldn't be subject to cruel and unusual punishment. There's literally probably almost infinite amount of things that we should disagree on, and that's actually fine with me. But if we can't agree on the core fundamental principles of literally what it means to be an American, you shouldn't be allowed to be an American, and you should get out, and you should be kicked out. I don't know if I've ever said it that bluntly, but that's pretty much where I'm at right now. What do you guys think about that? We can disagree on so many things, and we might get really mad at each other, and we might even think we hate each other for a short period of time while we're in these arguments. But at the end of the day, the Constitution, as amended by the Bill of Rights, these core principles within the Declaration of Independence, these are the laws of the land. And if you can't abide by those, I don't care if you're rich, I don't care if you're poor, I don't care if you're gay, I don't care if you're straight, I don't care what color your hair is, how long your hair is, whether you have any or not. I don't even care what pronouns you use when it really comes down to it. If you can support all this, you're an American. If you can't support this, you're not an American, and you need to get the heck out. That's pretty much where we're at right now. So there you go. That was a long rant on people believe because they're, whatever. And look, I know you're just using a term because we have to use words. We're limited by just our language, especially when we have to type things. We can't type what we truly mean in a limited amount of characters. But if anybody believes that you don't have the right to protect yourself with whatever tools you feel necessary, get out. You're not an American. You violate every principle of this country, and you shouldn't be allowed to be here. And if we don't start thinking about it that way, in my opinion, we're not even going to have a country left at all. Really. We're literally getting invaded right now at a record pace. There's more people invading our borders than is getting invaded anywhere in the world. And not only will the federal government not give back, sell cheap, like I said earlier, just to handle logistics, surplus ammo, it's actually worse than that if you really think about it. It's actually true. Now there's our federal government sending aid over to other countries, but they're also sending millions of rounds of ammo over to other countries right now. And of course, since I said earlier, there's many, many fine people that live in every country in the world. Of course, there's many fine people that live in Ukraine. And there's many, many fine people that live in Russia, obviously. But there's obviously many, many fine people that live here right now, too. And a lot of you can't protect yourself as you see fit because the stuff's just so darn expensive. And in many cases, hard to get. And our government's destroying ammo. It's hoarding ammo. It's sending it to every country in the world you can think of, including many enemies throughout the world. If they're an enemy, they get 1,000 times more of our state-of-the-art arms than we do. The enemies get the most, then the allies, then the whatever, the dark channels that it all goes down, and then like Ukraine and others, and then like the American people get none. Do you guys think it's interesting? And I'm just going to ask you this question. This is actually just a true question. I think it's interesting. That's all I'm going to give you on this right now. We can probably pick it up a little bit more because I want to show you guys some ammo another week. Do you think it's interesting that at a time that federal ammunition is sending very large quantities of ammunition to Ukraine? I'm not asking you if you support it or not, but you can answer whatever you want. I'm just asking you if you think it's interesting or if you've thought about it. That's all I'm going to say right now. I've thought about it. That's all I'm going to give you guys on this. Have you thought? I've thought about it, and I think it's interesting that they're shipping millions of rounds, regular private businesses in this country to Ukraine, and they're also announcing that all of the ammo for sale in the United States is going up a certain percentage in price in the next few days and weeks, namely April in the case of federal. That's why I'm using their name. They said we're raising the ammo in April to anyone in the United States that's buying it. Okay. And we've already granted this whole stream about the fact that we're not getting any surplus stuff that you paid for. They're giving away the ammo. Many fine people live in Ukraine. Provable fact. Many not so fine. Many fine people live in the United States, and also many not so fine. I mean, obviously. By the way, I've got some more swag. Got some more stuff from my friend Mrs. Misty Wayne too, but we're going to unveil that at the local stream. So make sure you guys are over on locals for that stream tomorrow. Many, many not so fine people in the United States too. Let's go, Brandon. But look, I'm just talking the brass tacks and logistics of all this. I don't mean to undermine it. I mean everything I say. There's many, many fine people that live in Ukraine and in Russia and in the United States. All right, but we need to move on for that because I want to talk about the brass tacks and the logistics of this stuff. Sometimes you got to have a few eggs before you can make an omelet. Like, how are you going to make it when you don't have any eggs? By the way, Brandon said there's going to be food shortages here. They're shipping ammo over to a foreign country right now. Not just your government, but also private businesses, and right around the same time, they're jacking the price up. Not afraid to broach this topic, guys, but if I go any further with it, I'll probably go on an hour rant, and I do want to catch up on these chats and show you guys ammo, and let me know. Do you guys want me to talk about this more next week, or have I talked about it enough? Seems like everybody's getting taken care of right now, but you and me, and we don't even want to be taken care of. We just want to be left alone. Just leave us the heck alone. Take the boot off of our neck, and we'll be just fine. Ammo prices are going up right now. They've been announced. Again, I'm not just calling that company out. There's many companies. I'm just saying there's a company called Federal Premium, part of Vista Outdoors, and they made a bold announcement that they're donating here, and they also made a bold announcement that ammo is going up here. Don't take my word for it. Go over there, check my sources, watch for yourself. I'm trying to make this short and sweet, but both has been announced at the same time, and you'll decide what you think that means. JIL 416 with a generous super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Says 2A Edu, I told you before, my deuce on a tripod would look great on my front lawn. And it would, but here's the thing. How about my deuce on a tripod with Lamy? Let me move this over a little bit here. Lamy, the official security of the 2A Edu channel, sponsored by my friend Pillbox Bunker, who gave me the half track with the Madus at a 2A Sanctuary County meeting. So there you go, buddy. JIL 416, right? I know what it stands for. I don't want to dox your identity, but thank you, friend. I really appreciate the generous super chat. But we do have a Madus with Lamy, so hopefully that'll suffice. But yeah, of course, you have the right to own a Madus. Where are all those at? It's called the M2 machine gun, guys. It's 50 caliber. They call it the Madus. The US M2 machine gun, 50 cal. Where are those at? No, I don't know. Some of us might not have room for it in our living room, so we put it in our front yard, like JIL 416 would, right? But why aren't those for sale at the local gun shop? Start asking people. Seriously, help me out, guys. Is there something we need to do here about this? I don't know. Right? Susan Wiki. Just remember, we're on YouTube. No, I mean, like, where's all the U.S. surplus? Check this out. Funes, CA from Canada, says gold, silver, and ammo. Well, thank you. And you know what? Literally, I can't make this stuff up. I wasn't picking on you. They might hate me now when I said, oh, I want to take care of America first. Clearly, this is a Canadian dollar super chat. Thank you for being so generous. Gold, silver, and ammo. But if you've been hanging out here this long, I think you knew exactly what I meant, didn't you? I mean, obviously, if there's Canada surplus ammo, that should go to you guys in Canada, obviously, the people of Canada. And in my opinion, being an American, we need to take care of Americans first with our surplus ammo too. So I'm actually glad that I have somebody that's foreign, air quotes. Like, I don't mean that as a put down, in the chat right now, because it's true. You guys in Canada, of course, should take care of Canada first. But you can still be friends with the United States. And me and you can personally be friends. But of course, your surplus ammo in Canada should go to you, Canadians, just like if there's people in Mexico watching. Of course, if there's any Mexican surplus ammo, it should go to Mexico. Like, duh. Or if you live in Afghanistan or China, or I could keep going, obviously. I think we can take care of ourselves first and actually still get along really well with many, many people. Do you guys think that's possible? I think it is. Harry Gremley, thanks for reminding everybody, as always, to give the thumbs up. Check this out. And this is actually something I'm going to be doing a future video series on. What I have in my hands, and this is kind of cool because I'm a history buff, guys, for many, many reasons. I mean, we were literally fighting the Axis powers and World War II. And this is 50 cartridges. It says pistol ball, caliber 45, M 1911. Ammunition, lot EC, repacked, EC 544. So this particular ammo was made in 1943. Repackaged, meaning they would change the packaging for different occasions. So this isn't like refurbished. This was repacked in 1944. So literally, the last time this ammo saw the light of day, this is a sealed box, was in 1944. Near the end, but right at the height of the U.S. involvement in World War II. And I plan on doing an unboxing of this ammo because this is just the one single box that I bought. And I actually have just right over here, I put a couple pictures of the teaser on Locals. So definitely make sure you guys are over there where I post daily deals, bonus content. I do live streams at least once, if not twice a week over there, where I do touch guns while I'm live. Not here, Susan. This is called Locals. And sorry, girl, you're not allowed. Did you guys notice that earlier when I said with the M16 machine gun, it's called the Ledge and it's called the Hole? Did you see her perk up when I said the Hole? How's it going, Susan? I know there's a few guys watching right now that work for YouTube that are like, dude, this is cool. He's showing some original World War II M1911 ammo. So I have an original sealed crate, and within that crate is 2 sealed tins. And I took a poll on Locals a while back. And I said, do you guys have interest in this? Maybe me buying a sealed crate. This is like a time capsule from World War II. And by the way, I'll tell you the ironic part. No, the U.S. government actually didn't make this available to us. Even World War II ammo, they won't make available. They'll burn it. They'll give it to whoever. This actually was sent to Ethiopia way back in the day, like in the 1940s, presumably. Ethiopia kept it this whole time, and then due to private enterprise, it's being imported back into the U.S. and sold to us because the country of Ethiopia was willing to break off some of their surplus arms and ammo to the United States. Well, good luck finding any U.S. surplus ammo that you paid for out of your own tax dollars and your ancestors' tax dollars. So it's cool. And I'm lucky to be able to get this. And some of you guys have maybe also been so lucky. But this came, it's called the Evansville factory in Indiana, right? And I just saw my buddy Jeff. So shout out to Indiana, Jeff. Okay. Went all the way to Ethiopia, sat there for literally decades, and then because the Ethiopian government owns it, they have no problem selling it to us, and our own government won't sell you any of the M9 service pistols or surplus ammo. That's what I've been ranting about this whole time, guys. But so I like history. By the way, I have a tourist collection video coming out very soon. So I know there's guys that watch this channel for many reasons, but I haven't got to do kind of like an old school history video in a while. So when I did the poll on locals and said, do you guys want me to do it? Some people said yes, but you were like, yes, but with reservations. And some of you thought, because you guys know I'm not a wealthy person. You guys know that I'm literally cut grass, do landscaping for a living. By all of you folks that are so generous in so many ways, I'm able to struggle to almost barely break even with this channel. Hey, it used to be my very most expensive hobby, and I would have had to shut it down over a year ago, guys. But you guys have really helped. But this isn't how I make my living, and you guys know that. Now, if I was wealthy, you may have given me different answers, but a lot of people said the same thing. They said, dude, that's an investment. Keep those tins sealed, because if you keep them sealed, that's an investment for you and your family, knowing I don't have a lot of money. And also, some people said it'd be kind of like sacrilegious. So keep the tins sealed, people said. But I can still unbox the crate and show you guys what those tins look like, frozen in time from 1944. But then I bought an extra box. And this one, in an upcoming YouTube video soon, I'm actually going to open this up. So I have 2 sealed tins, which are hermetically sealed. They're called spam cans, right? In a wood crate. You guys will see me going through, and I'll show you and talk about it. But I'm going to bust this box open in a video and actually take some of the cartridges out. We're going to look at them. And then I actually have plans to shoot some of this stuff. So that's going to be pretty fun. You guys let me know if you're into that kind of history, or maybe you're just a 45 fan period, right? So there you go. And then you can't even make this stuff up. Do you guys want another teaser? I'll show you something really cool that's going to go along with this. Hold on. So me being from not Detroit, but only an hour away, Southeast Michigan, obviously the big three, you think of places like Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler. This is actually a book, and I put a teaser picture of this on Locals last night. This is a book that was basically funded by, put out by the Chrysler Corporation, and it's actually talking about, like, literally, it's called Bullets by the Billion. Anybody heard of this? And it's about the Evansville plant, which that's what EC is going to be part of that acronym. And this is a book that the Chrysler Corporation had published in 1946, and I was lucky enough to find an original copy of this. It didn't cost me a fortune at all. I think I spent $20 for this book, and I did indeed get lucky, though, because it was just on eBay. I randomly got it. This one includes a little cover card that was given at that time by the president of Chrysler. And it says Chrysler Corporation, Detroit, Michigan. And this thing's literally like in mint condition, time capsule, the same as this ammo. Like all this stuff's frozen in time from 1944 here, and then 1946 here, and Detroit, Michigan. In the attached book, Wesley W. Stout, former editor of the Saturday Evening Post, has told the war story of Chrysler Corporation's Evansville, Indiana plant. This story is one that to us exemplifies some of the industry's versatility and some of the teamwork between industries and with the armed services that had so much to do with victory. I would like you to have a copy. K.T. Keller, who was the president of the Chrysler Corporation in 1946. I'm not going to bore you guys and do a book review, but this is the stamp of whoever M.B. Long is. Presumably, this is the person that the president of the Chrysler Corporation had gifted it to, because this book's basically in brand new, unread condition. Literally, this thing's almost 80 years old. And it's actually going to go through. So I'm going to do a part 1, which is going to be an unboxing, uncrating. And then that's why I bought this extra box to show you guys what original USGI M1911 45 ammo looks like. And then I thought maybe I'd do a follow-up. Just for the history geeks, it probably won't get a lot of views. I don't know if any of you are even interested in me talking about this right now, but I think maybe a few of you are. And I just thought this is important history. There's a lot of sense of American pride in this book, and you can see that by looking at people that were toiling and working in, hot, uncomfortable conditions. I mean, it's called factory work. I mean, I work in landscaping. Do any of you guys work in factories? I'm not saying they're the same, but we a lot of times work in bad conditions. Do any of you guys work in construction? Yes, of course, there's the corporatocracy part of this and all of that. And I talk about that a lot, but there was also just a lot of regular American people that went to work at the Evansville American plant, and they were toiling and working their butts off to try to defeat the Axis powers, the evil, the communists, the National Socialists. You know what I'm saying? The oligarchs, the fascists. Here it shows a gentleman right here. This is called bullets by the billions. They made billions of rounds of this ammo. There's actually lots of documentary information in here that actually talks about how they made the rounds, how they came to decisions they made. It shows how companies like Chrysler, who made automobiles, retooled up, and people as far as you can see sitting there working on the assembly line. It's kind of a time warp. You can see how men and women dressed back then. Here's a classic example of a 1940s lady, See? Women were working on the line. Men were working on the line. You'd often find the women doing more of the light duty jobs that might not require them to lift hundreds of pounds. But in a lot of ways, they say women pay more attention to detail and are more quality oriented. And they actually took all that into account, step by step, how they made these 45 ACP cartridges. There's a lot of cool information in here, and you can go through. I mean, this is a first edition book. This was printed in 1946 and presumably sat in somebody's sock drawer or attic for the last 80 years. Isn't she a doll? Look at that. The classic 1940s, I guess, look that people had back then. Right here, finished trim inspector examining 72 cartridge cases at a time by means of an easily loading tray. So there you go. These young ladies each have an inspection tray, examining and inspecting 72 cartridges at a time. Do you think these ladies here, do you think they were actually trying to fight despotism by doing this, or did they not really care? Do you think some of these people in this book, I don't know their names, it's probably be impossible to know, but do you think they thought that I'd be holding this book up talking right now about how much the world's changed this then, how much our country's changed this since then? I don't know. And I don't want to blame these people, and I don't want to blame you, but maybe people were so busy looking at evils abroad at that time, which no doubt were very prevalent. Maybe they were ignoring what was going on at home. Because this stuff's been going on for a long time. Look, target sheets after 10 shots. So they show this man here. I'll show you guys this, and then I'll move on to showing you some other surplus ammo. So this guy's shooting a fixed gun rest, right? Firing a fixed rest at guns at an enclosed target 50 feet away for accuracy. Now it shows all these young ladies in here, and they look pretty young. When I say young ladies, they look like teenagers almost. Maybe they were 18. I don't know, but look at they're literally sitting there measuring the standard deviation. Is that what we call this in the ballistics world? They're literally sitting there. Look, they've got their squares, they've got their rulers, and they're measuring deviation of these that were test fired. It's kind of a crazy thing. Bullets by the billion. So I have some original USGI 45 ACP, brand new old stock from 1944. It had to come via Ethiopia, though. Very ironic with what I was talking about earlier today. Here's some other ammo that was made in World War II, and I have a locals post. That's another site. If you could post that for me, the locals ammo post. I can't share it here, guys, so I'm not going to, but I know where to get this stuff right now for a very good price. I technically know where to get this too right now, but not so much of a good price. But I do know where to get some World War II 8mm Mauser ammo. Back to this again, other countries will sell it to us. Even if it's American stuff, we have to buy it from another country. Gets me kind of ticked off. But this is some 8mm Mauser Greek ammo from Greece. 1940. So this is World War II. Greece being, well, I guess you could call them neutral, more like Greece being occupied, but actually did have kind of a significant victory that many say did help turn the tides of World War II. So Greece was a very early occupied country, with Italy coming in there occupying very quickly. Also with the help of that Reich that was supposed to last 1,000 years. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you got a speaking code here on YouTube. Isn't that crazy? On locals, I don't, but I'm glad to be here with you guys. Trust me. I just want to make sure you guys know that I'm doing a lot of content on another site. That Reich that was supposed to last 1,000 years, but they actually came back, and Greece actually had one of the early defeats, comparatively speaking, right? Early defeats of the Axis powers too. And people who've done deep dives into World War II and looking at the battlefield scenarios, a lot of people would say that the victory in Greece against the Axis is what helped to start turning the tides. So being an occupied country, this being made in 1940, the 8mm Mauser, no doubt being run under Italian and then, more German controlled, Axis controlled. Here was the cartridges that they were putting out in World War II. And if you could drop the link, Linda, I can take you guys to a locals post where this is on another site. And I just can't promote sites that sell guns or ammo here. And let me tell you what, Susan, for whoever's watching that works there, I am not promoting anything here on YouTube. I can promise you that. But very, very good price on this. Now, this is old ammo, literally with the head stamp. This doesn't have the date on it, but the box is 1940. We can see here. This is brass cased, Burdam primed. 7.92 by 57, otherwise known as the 8mm Mauser. Now, the ammo itself, the powder itself, isn't so corrosive as much as the primer. So this does count as corrosively primed ammo. There's a cleaning procedure that where you use a water-based solvent. It could be as simple as hot water, even cold water to a point, dish soap, Windex, whatever. I actually like to use an emulsifiable oil. Okay, like Ballistol, 10%, 90% water. The water will carry the water-soluble salts from the corrosive primer out of the gun. And then what's cool about having it 10% Ballistol, which is an oil that will dissolve in water and mix, it makes like a white milky look, is once you air dry, blow dry, blot off all the water, the rest of the remaining moisture will evaporate out while you're left with a thin film of protective oil. So that's something else, a little tip for you guys. But clean appropriately, and you'll be just fine. I mean, none of these guns that were out back then were shooting anything other than corrosively primed ammo for the most part. 30 carbine, a quick trivia for you, even if it was made in World War II, was always non-corrosive. But look at US 30-06. That was actually corrosive and then switched over years later. 30 carbine, non-corrosive from day one. It has to do with multiple factors, including it was more rear echelon troops that used the M1 carbine. So A, they didn't need it to ignite in as much versatile weather. Look, there's no free lunch in life. Part of the reason they were using the corrosive primers is back then, those were the chemicals required to have good detonation, even in very, very cold temperatures. They had non-corrosive primers back then. They just didn't pop off as reliably in extremely cold weather. Now, with advancements in chemistry and modern technology, we can have a primer that's both non-corrosive and works great in cold climates. But that was a compromise back then. So while the U.S. 30-06 ammo in World War II would have been corrosively primed, 30 carbine wasn't. But almost the whole rest of the world, all the way up into the 70s, even 80s, even 90s, including countries like Greece, back in World War II, corrosively primed. But if you guys check out that link on locals, I'm telling you guys, awesome deal on this. Like literally. And you can even get free shipping too. All the details are over there. So this is an important piece of history. And you can get this literally right now. So here's to provide a little bit of an encouragement. Or some of you guys are like, dude, I love the history, but maybe you're new and you want to buy stuff. What if I told you literally, check out my locals post. Linda's sharing the link. And right there, I know it says Taurus live stream. That's a live stream. I was talking about Taurus guns, so you guys might like that too. But down in the description, I'm showing some of these deals. This is like $9.97 for 20 rounds. So you can literally own 20 rounds of history, whether you want to shoot it or just collect it or tell a story with it. You can talk about how Greece was very early in the war occupied, around 1940, by the Italians. Mussolini, they called them the fascists. And then the Germans, being part of the Axis powers, came in. But actually, Greece suffered heavy, heavy casualties. I mean, we were talking, there was a time period during this occupation that 1,000 Greeks were dying per day of starvation alone. And I think the number's close to 400,000 were lost in battle. I mean, there's no script here. So if I'm slightly off on this, I think my point is still pretty much on. And the Brits came in, okay? And quite frankly, I mean, if there's any Greek people in the house, you know, shout out to you and your ancestors that may have fought in some of these battles. But from what I understand, the Greeks actually fought like hell against the Axis powers. And this would have been occupied ammo for the 8mm Mauser. The gun of choice at that time for Germany would have been the K98, K98K, the Carabiner 98, the Mauser action. They may have been using some Gerwehr 98s, you know, the longer full-length rifle, as well as different, you know, heavy machine guns, things like that. But no doubt making the German cartridge while occupied, this is an important piece of history made in 1940. It's not as cool as the history of this specific ammo because there's literally people, I guarantee you. I saw my buddy Jeff from Indiana watching. And like Evansville plant in Indiana, bingo. A book explaining all of it from Detroit, Michigan. Like, this is a lot closer to home, but yet this is an important piece of history from World War II. Here's some more World War II ammo. This whole package right now, via that link over on Locals, $30. This is literally available right now. I promise you guys. I just can't say the name of the site here, and I'm not gonna. This is a bandolier from the country of Turkey. Okay, I'm not an expert on them either, but I'll explain a little bit about their involvement in World War II. This is a bandolier with 8mm Mauser ammo on stripper clips. And this is going to be, I believe it's 60 rounds, 2, 4, 6, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 rounds. So this was ready to go, and they packaged some of our ammo like this too. Maybe you guys are familiar with Garand ammo that was in the end block clip, 8-round clips. They put the clips in the bandolier. They packaged the bandolier in the ammo can. They'd hand the troop the bandolier, depending what his command was telling him to do, or maybe in certain instances at his discretion, he would either choose to, you know, affix the bandolier. I mean, this is a little bit high here, but I'm just showing you guys. You wrap it around your chest, maybe on an angle, maybe not. You'd tie it in the back, probably have your battle buddy tie it in the back for you, but this was a way. I had it backwards here, but you guys get the point. This was the equivalency of your loadout vest. Literally, nobody really wore body armor at all back in World War II. So this would come ready to issue, ready to package. It's kind of a cheap, you know, cotton type material, but it does have sewn on metal buttons. And this in its own right, maybe not as interesting to you guys as U.S. history, and we've talked about that quite a bit tonight, but this would also be history of the country of Turkey in World War II. Also making 8mm Mauser ammo. Now, if you look at the Turks, the Ottomans, they were using the Mauser for many, many years. You can see Mausers chambered in 7.65. You can see Mausers chambered in eventually 8mm. This being the 7.92 by 57 8mm Mauser. This came packaged on stripper clips. So contrary to popular belief, what goes in your Taurus G2C, that's a magazine, or your Ruger LCP. This, though, is actually called a clip. 5 rounds, which be the standard capacity, the magazine capacity of a Mauser, whether it's a Turkish Mauser. The Turks would have several Mausers that they would actually redo, like the old Gerwehr 88 commission rifles. I have a Turk refurbished one of those, actually, too, that was refurbished like 3 separate times. If you guys are interested in that stuff, I can whip some of it out for a video. But now here, they weren't occupied or with the Axis or the Allies. Turkey was a little more interesting, and I'm going to give a 30-second flyover and then get off because I've been on for almost 2 hours already. You know what I'm saying? So, and if I have any more super chats, I'll get to those in just 1 second. I appreciate you guys' generosity. I really appreciate you guys' patience. I don't really take demands, though, so, You know what I'm saying? It's my show. I'll do whatever I want, but I thank you for your generosity out there. Just give a second here. We're just hanging out with everybody. So, they were what you call a neutral country that was friendly with the Germans, and they had certain resources and things that they would export to Germany, kind of like how Spain did. Lots of guns and supplies were provided by Spain. But I think with Turkey, one of their big assets too, Germany, during World War II, was actually them providing chrome, the materials to make chrome. Does that sound right? So, yeah, a neutral country that was somewhat friendly. We'll just say a friendly to the Axis powers. Neutral country. And this is going to have a head stamp of 1939, which puts it right at World War II. You can get the whole bandolier with the clips. Same thing as before. I won't bore you guys. This is considered corrosively primed ammo. As with all old ammo like this, proceed with caution, meaning you could get a squib load. You could get one that doesn't fire. It just all depends. I've had old ammo like this work pretty reliably with some exceptions. I kind of think it's a win-win. Here's what I'll usually do. I just wanted to buy one bandolier of this to see what it looked like and see what its overall condition was. I'm pretty impressed. So I'm probably going to order one more from the same site that's in the link on that locals post. And I'll probably just keep that one as part of my collection because I like history and I like to look at this stuff and talk about it. And then I'll probably take some of this little stuff right here out to the range. You know what I mean? So there's an opportunity if you guys are into World War II stuff, if you're into history. There's still some stuff available here and there. It's just the U.S. stuff. You have to buy it via third-party countries, which is unfortunate. But yeah, boy, the time's flown quick tonight. I've really had a lot of fun hanging out with you guys, though. Do I have any chats I need to catch up on, Linda? I saw out of the corner of my eye I might have missed one. Top Gunner with the super chat. See, I told you I'd get to you, man. Well, we got you. Thank you. I appreciate it. It says, what will happen to regular firearms that are not, P80, if AFT passes the law that slides our firearms, for example, like the FM57? Okay. We don't know for sure what's going to happen in the definition of frames and receivers. It's just vague, and it's purposely vague, okay? Follow me on this. It's purposely vague. However, from what I understand, not legal advice, I'm not a lawyer. I know you thought you were asking a simple question, but it's not simple, and I could probably talk 2 hours on it. So let me think of a way to concisely say this. If they find out that it's a firearm, from what the slide is, it's still an if because it hasn't happened yet. We don't know. From what I understand, this is in the proposed rule. See, here's the problem. It's impossible to answer these, even though we should talk about them. And it's a good question, okay? It really is. And a lot of people are wondering this. It's hypothetical because it's just like Obamacare. You don't know what it is till you pass it. Do you guys remember all that? We can't tell you what's in the bill till you pass it. The proposed rule. But that's not necessarily what the final rule is going to be because they're doing all this outside the rule of law, so they're just doing whatever they want. This is where this gets complicated. We could go by what the proposed rule says and say that's what will happen unless or if they change their mind and do something totally different. So with that said, according to the proposed rule, if you have it right now, it would be grandfathered in of sorts, meaning you could keep it even if your slide is not serialized and doesn't match the frame. You could even keep a homemade firearm, from the way I understand it, not a lawyer, no legal advice, if you made your own firearm from scratch. But once it crosses an FFL, meaning you either take it into a gun shop to sell it on consignment, in some states you have universal background checks, and they force you to go through an FFL for face-to-face transfers, then it would be put on the books of an FFL, and then it would need to conform. So if they make slides conform, meaning they have to have their own serial number, then, and if they still offer the half-baked grandfather clause provision within this, if both of those remain true in the final one, you should be fine until you go to sell it through a gun shop. Was that a good answer? I feel like my answer may have been more confusing because there's a million ifs this, then this, and if that, but that's the problem with all this. And that's why it's so frustrating is we don't really get to see what the rule is until they pass it. Although a lot of us have educated guesses of what we think it's going to be. And according to the proposal, you'd be grandfathered in unless it had to go through a gun shop's bound book. Okay, so there you go. Did I have any more, Linda? But yeah, I've already skimmed through this book and it was pretty fun. Channel member Zach Carr says, Ahoo or Ayu. Thanks, man. I appreciate you, dude. With the Toxic Patch Company. So definitely shout out to him. I know you guys have been posting on locals lately. Some of those, but we also included some patches with a couple things that a couple of you guys randomly won some stuff. And it was cool, man. They're posting cool pictures of your company's patches. And definitely shout out to Toxic Patch Co. If any of you guys are in need of patches, he's the one that makes mine. They're available for sale at Black Swan Tactical, and I bought a decent pile of from those guys last fall just to randomly give away to people. And as soon as I get a little more money together, I'm going to be getting a hold of you to order more, Zach. But if you guys have channels or need to get patches for your business or your promotions or whatever, good company to deal with. That's 2A friendly. Some of the companies won't deal with you if you're a Second Amendment channel, you know? So, man, I am pretty much out of time, guys. I know it's some of your bedtimes. I've been on about 2 hours, but I've really, really had a good time hanging out with you guys tonight. I get to talking about this stuff, and time flies really, really fast, but I guess that just means I'm having a good time, and I hope you guys are too. Ruger Farming said, first time here, I love it. Well, thank you. That's awesome. I'm glad you're here, and hopefully you had a good time hanging out with the people in the chat. I know I always do. That's the best part. Let's face it. The people in the chat. Yes, it says, thanks for watching. See you on Locals. I will be on Locals again. If you're not sick of me yet, doing a live stream tomorrow night, which is Saturday. I pretty much do it every Saturday night, and I touch guns while I'm live. You know what I'm saying? John Stokes, what's happening, man? Channel member. Thanks for supporting the channel, dude. He says, how do I like the Ruger AR-556 or the Ruger LCP Max? LCP Max, I like, and I'm sorry, guys. I'm way behind on videos. I need to get the review on the channel. My first overall impressions of the LCP Max are very good. Ruger AR-556, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I've never had one in my hands. Never shot one. I don't know, but I have heard good things from people that like them. But I don't have any firsthand experience with it whatsoever. Randy Smith said, wow, that is some old stuff. My dad was in World War II. Really cool. Well, heck yeah, man. I like history and I like old stuff. Not just because the stuff itself. It's like, sure, I love ammo. And I don't even know anybody from Turkey, I don't think. Maybe one of you guys will tell me you are, and I actually do. But it's still interesting, though, and it's still history. And they were an occupied country, and Greece, I'm sorry, was an occupied country. Turkey was they were a friendly, neutral country. But like I said, lots of stuff. Making ammo basically for German rifles, though, no doubt. And both Turkey with this and Greece with that other ammo. Occupied Greece. Look it up if you guys just want some trivia. I'm not reading from a script. I can't remember all the facts of it, but they fought like hell. There was actually a couple, they say, key turning points to World War II that happened within Greece. Occupied Greece. Gail said good chat. Well, thank you, Gail. I appreciate it. Where's Pillbox Bunker? Gord, great bunch of people here and in locals. Well, thanks, Gord. I appreciate you, man. WH says, love you, brother. Been watching and listening for a while now. We are the new Sons of Liberty. Well, thanks, man. I'm glad you're here and having a good time, dude. Dale, good to see you, man. Dale Konya. We've got Denny's Plant-Based Journey. James Kawasaki. We got Ting Ting. What's happening, Ting Ting? How you doing? I'm just saying hi to some of you guys on the way out. If you guys are bored, you can leave. But if you don't mind, I'm just going to say hi to a couple people on the way out of here. You know what I'm saying? Band talk as always. Nice to see you, man. JIL416. Good to see you back. Nice. We've got John Doe. What's happening, John Doe? We got TJ Drama, another Michigan man. What's happening, TJ? Nice to see you, man. You guys are talking about insurance. I'll read it later. Linda, thank you for your help. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Mateo, for all of your help. Zach, putting the 2A Edu channel member emojis in there. That's awesome. Top Gunner, we're going to forget about you. Hopefully I gave you a good answer. It was kind of a long answer, but it took a minute. You know what I'm saying? Rudy Finney, what's happening, Rudy? How you doing, man? I'll get that super chat in 1 second, Linda. I just saw it. Misty Mrs. Wayne, what's happening? She sent me some stuff, too. I'm going to be showing you guys that it's going to end up in the hands of some of you. What you got there is her avatar. 2AE to you. And if Zach Carr's still here, Zach's like, hold on a minute. I recognize that. Zach's like, did I make that patch? Nah, I'm friends with a lot of good people on here, guys. I'm telling you what. I'm hoping you guys are, too. If we can't have each other, we have nothing at all. Please tell me some of you guys are making good friends on this channel, and whether it's here on YouTube or locals. Does that look familiar? Now, this doesn't belong to her husband, Ron. I've sent him quite a few patches. This is Misty, so just reminding. I caught him the other day. He posted a picture on locals displaying it with his patch collection. I'm like, you know what, though? That actually doesn't belong to him. That belongs to his better half. What's happening, Brastard? Speaking of people, you were watching these streams, weren't you, dude, when I was calling Trump out for the bump stocks? Hopefully, Brastard was vouching for me on that one. French and Chinese made corrosive 30 carbine ammo, but it's rare. I totally believe you on that. I don't know about other countries. US GI, though, right? US, it was kind of an anomaly at the time. Made the non-corrosive ammo. Rudy Finney, as always, you're awesome, man. Mike McClune. Scott Plagman. Let me scroll down here, see who else is here, and I'm going to get out of here. Hold on. Shout out to the truck drivers. GRK605. What's happening, man? Can you give us a honk? Maybe we can hear you? I don't know. He says, hey, brother, I'm a truck driver and I've been listening to you for the last 2 hours. Very informative, very educational. You're a fountain of information, and I will always watch your videos. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate the encouragement, and make sure you're driving safe out there, man. You know more than I do, but these people are crazy on the road, so drive safe, and I appreciate you, man. Ting Ting and Jane Locke, two good-looking women hanging out talking together. That's awesome. Nice. Awesome. I'd like to see this. People networking and hanging out. DB Cooper with the super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. He says, 1 gallon of gas on me, my friend. And you know what? It's sad that is what a gallon of gas costs pretty much, but I appreciate you, dude. And definitely we'll put that in the tank and put it to good use. So thank you, DB. You've been around the channel for a long time too, man. What happened to DB Cooper, right? He's the one that jumped out of that airplane with all that money. What do you think? He's in the chat, guys. Do you want to know what happened to DB Cooper's money? We got him right here. Let's go find some of that money. In fact, I'm going to get off. I'm going to go follow DB Cooper and see if I can get some of those unmarked United States $20 bills. You know what I'm saying? Felipe, shout out to Brazil. See, I told you, many, many fine people in many, many countries throughout the world totally love Taurus firearms. So shout out to you guys for that. And there's some pretty cool stuff that actually goes on in Brazil. Look, I know your gun laws like totally suck there and stuff. Like, look, they could be worse. I get it. You guys are a big gun country, but there's some pretty cool stuff that actually goes on in Brazil that we've talked about quite a bit. So definitely shout out to all the Brazilians, and you guys are awesome. I mean, obviously, Taurus Firearms, Brazil, you know what I'm saying. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I appreciate all of you. I will see some of you guys on locals tomorrow night, and I'll see the rest of you again on here on YouTube next Friday night. And look out for a Taurus video soon, as well as I'm going to kind of do a little bit of history and hanging out with some of this World War II USGI 45 M1911 ammo. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.